American Radio. To make a comment or ask a question of the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email coffee@woonsocketradio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee Ann panel.
Yes, it's time for Coffee Ann around the world and across the nation. Hi, everybody. Dave Richards here on this gloomy and rainy and chilly Thursday morning in the Blackstone Valley. We have plenty of rain, as you could see when we first got started here. The gutters are full on Park Avenue once again, and it's just coming right down there. And as a matter of fact, we have evidence of the rain on the shoulders of our dear friend Bob Larder, who ran like the dickens through the parking lot and still got a few raindrops on him.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Good morning.
Disappointed, however, man. I
You're
thought this was an
disappointed?
all-service radio station.
How do you mean?
Well, I got out of the car. I expected a little canoe to bring me to the door. The parking lot's flooded, and I got to slosh through the rain.
Well, Joe's got the morning off today, so we're a little short-staffed.
Okay.
He'll be in later on in the day. He's just coming in late today.
Okay, all right.
Stuff going on in the family, you know.
You would have had the canoe and the paddles out there otherwise. Good.
No,
Good.
an umbrella.
An umbrella.
Sure. The canoe is an extra charge. The umbrella you get for nothing. It's true.
Okay, great. And I heard the door open, which I imagine means that Sue
It
McKenzie...
probably means that
Yes.
Tessia McKenzie is coming in from out of the rain, which she's certainly smart enough to do.
Wow. Once
And
again,
there she
a fantastic
is.
outfit.
Thank you.
Everything in black with a white jacket and black design on it?
Right?
Nice.
I've had this jacket for many, many years.
Oh, you'd never say
Believe it
that.
or
But it
not.
looks
no,
new.
No, you just say how bright it
it's
is.
just, what do they call that? There's a name for it, and I can't think what it is. No, it's
Bolero jacket?
it's a jean jacket, but it's, like when things you don't have to get rid of because of style, it just,
Oh, perennial or eternal?
no, we're going to think about this word, but
It's synonymous with narrow ties, thin lapels,
Yeah.
white socks.
you like how things,
Don't ever get rid of them because they always
classic,
come back.
it's classic, it's
Oh,
a classic denim
As in
jacket.
classic limousine.
Hey, there you go.
Whoa.
Thank God I don't do that anymore.
Morning like today would not have been pleasant, huh? You'd have been out there with the umbrellas.
But at least then I wore a hat,
Yeah, that's true.
so I didn't have to do anything with my hair. The umbrellas were for the customers. So
Yeah. All righty. Well, you want to give your message now or later in the show?
let's just do it.
Ladies' choice. You okay? Go for
Good
it.
morning, everybody. Again, I remind people daily about our move. We're across the street from City Hall.
You'll be reminding them for a while.
Yes. But there is a sign on the old door that tells them. We just don't have our sign up yet. Hopefully it'll be soon. But we don't have our sign right across from City Hall in the same building as Bellamente Counseling. And we are on the first floor. We have more and more people coming in every day to pick up papers, back issues, so on and so forth. So please continue to stop in. Christina likes to get visitors. And if you're looking for subscriptions, looking for missed deliveries, looking to do any advertising, you can call me at 487-4136.
Thank you.
She always does that so well, right off the top.
Right.
No
She's
notes
not-
or anything.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I've always said it.
Thank you.
She's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. You got to see her with chocolate.
Oh?
Oh, my goodness.
I
Your
make
jaw will
chocolate,
drop.
too.
Your jaw will drop because she is just amazing with chocolate.
Okay. Do you mean in the creation of chocolate
A-
or in the
Hand
consumption of
painted-
chocolate?
Hand-painted colored chocolate.
An artist.
Oh. Whoa. If we were slightly less good than we really are, we might try and put a guilt trip on Suzanne to, make some of this stuff and bring it in and actually show it to us and allow us to, bite into it and see how really good it is.
Well, you might, but me, I know what her life is like. It's always been like, and I couldn't do that to a friend.
Thanks, Dave.
you are such a good
Of
man.
course, that's where it was like Dave was a mind reader just now as I'm sitting here going,
Yeah, like when?
yeah, let me throw that into the mix. Yeah.
All right. Well, friends, all kinds of things going on. And, Bob, I don't know if you've seen your Blackstone Valley Calling Times yet, but mine arrived bright and early this morning. 10 points for the delivery person. They actually hit the steps.
Wonderful.
Yes. And on the front page, we see Stanley Goldstein passed away on the 21st. I didn't get the memo until we see it in the paper here. So I did not know that Stanley, of course, we knew Sid had passed away years ago. And but Stanley passed away, and anybody who is new to the area doesn't know Sid and Stanley Goldstein, along with a partner from Boston whose last name I never remembered. They really started CVS. They were jobbers. They were doing their father's wholesale business. They were stocking the shelves of Lee's Pharmacy, Beaupre's Pharmacy, Roy, the whole business like that for so many years, and then they branched off into their own pharmacy store, and it became very, very successful. Maybe you've heard of it, CVS.
Right.
So anyway, but what I didn't know, and Brian Murphy of the Washington Post actually penned the story that you're running on the front page of the Blackstone Valley Call-in-Times, because the boys were born here in Woonsocket. Mm-hmm. And what I did not know is that at whatever $350 million worth of annual revenue or something like that, it's bigger than ExxonMobil, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than Ford.
That's amazing.
You'll read all about it in today's Blackstone Valley Call-in-Times, and boy, is it a nice memory trip to read that story. So pick up the paper today if you're not already on subscription. That's quite something. And we all have stories about the Goldsteins. Of course, Sidney was the more colorful one, in his own way. Does anybody recall? We're talking about Stanley had passed away, but Sid immediately comes to mind a great Sid Goldstein story. Bob, you could probably answer this question. What does the YMCA pool have to do with Sid Goldstein? There's a commonality there.
I have no idea. Did he give it, or
He owned it at one time.
the old post office?
The old post office, he did, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, he did.
Wow.
You remember, Sue?
I do not.
It was in the call at the time. It was all over the radio.
No.
Sid was frustrated at one point, and each and every one of us on this planet has moments that they probably would have done differently if they'd given it a lot of thought. You know, we all have, right? So, but Sid owned the post office, and he was trying to sell it, and it just wouldn't move. It couldn't go. He just couldn't do anything with it. One night, in frustration, he went down to the post office on Main Street. Well, the old post office. The new one was already in operation. And he reached the back of his car, pulled out his golf clubs, and threw them through the windows, breaking the
Okay.
glass.
All right.
He did. And it made it on the police blotter because, well, of course, I suppose you legally have the right. It was discussed on Coffee Am by Andy and Dave and Rory back in the day. Legally, you'd say, I got the right to break those windows. It's my building.
Correct.
There actually is a disturbing the peace factor and all
Yep.
of that, and destruction of property and all the rest of that sort of thing. So it wasn't totally nobody's business that he did it, and it ended up quite a public thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never realized that he owned the post office after it was sold by the government.
Yeah, well, you got to remember back in the 90s, they went public and sold the company, and because at that point, you know, they had built it up from
Right.
inside, and they were all looking forward. They had seats on the board and everything, but they just they didn't have to do the day-to-day stuff anymore, and they kind of like took an early retirement. And the boys did pretty well. Stanley, according to the story that I read this morning in the Call-in-Times, he spent a lot of time on his boat, going out clamming, maybe going over the Martha's Vineyard. He kind of hoboed about. He was having a good time
There
in
you
life,
go.
and we're happy about that. But he came up with cancer a few months back, and now he's passed away at the age of 89.
Wow.
So Stanley, the second of the Goldstein brothers, who are responsible for CVS, Consumer Value Stores. Cute little quip in the story, Sue. You didn't get a chance to read it.
No,
did
I
you?
didn't.
Yeah. Well, you can take my copy.
Oh, no, I have some at the office, I'm
I
sure.
bet you do, come to think of it. Yeah, now, come to think of it. Cute little quip in there. We started off Consumer Value Stores because we had an idea that this would work. Back in 1963, you could go to pharmacies and get the things, like, the hair color and whatever like that. But it was under the pharmacy situation. That was a pharmacy, and the pharmacist would get you things. But now, of course, supermarkets becoming very popular in the 40s and 50s. Self-service supermarkets more so. They said, well, let's have self-service pharmaceuticals and healthcare products and personal care products. And that's what they did. Well, that's the stuff they used to put into the pharmacy. They used to stock the shelves and service the shelves there. Let's do our own store that way. And you would serve yourself and you bag it yourself and save money. And they came up with the name Consumer Value Stores. And they says, we shortened it to CVS because it saved money on the signs. All those letters cost money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I love that
Wise
one.
marketing.
All those letters
Cost money.
Okay.
But anybody who grew up around here knew that CVS stood for Consumer Value Stores.
True.
All right.
Yeah.
When
Very
you talk
good.
about people from Woonsocket, though, who've gone on to great things. Woonsocket is not as isolated as people would like to think we are.
No.
And there was, I don't like to refer to a rival newspaper, but there was an article on the front page of the Journal within the last few days talking about the Brickell Company.
Oh, yeah.
And how great they are in textiles and how positive they are about the textile
Weeks
world.
ago, we had that in the column.
I was just going to say that. I know that was in our paper too.
Okay.
That was in your paper first.
Yep.
Good.
And
Thank you.
They put it in the statewide paper.
It's just amazing to a lot of people. My son really enjoys the history of Woonsocket.
Sure.
He loves seeing the books on the history of Woonsocket because it's amazing the things that were originated in the city.
Yeah.
And I say originated, maybe not originated, maybe there were, other textile factories, etc., in other areas, in other states, but
we were known
so much was done here
Well,
in Woonsocket.
Anybody who watched any pay cable TV over the past weekend saw an awful lot of shows about past wars and history and stuff like that.
You're
yeah.
bringing that up, and I'm
I am.
interrupting
You know what I'm gonna
before
say.
you say it. I'm interrupting before you do, because I want that one.
All right.
Oh.
Go
The
for it.
Ghost Army that a lot of people have never heard of. Now, and the reason I wanted that one is because Bob Billington had talked to me about it when I was on the board with the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council to bring it to the stadium. So we at the Call sponsored bringing the Ghost Army to the Stadium Theater. And what it was a lot, and now you can interrupt me anytime in case I'm inaccurately
fine.
saying anything, but the Ghost Army had to do, and for anybody listening, I highly recommend you look into watching this movie because it was so interesting. So they had fake rubber tanks and jeeps and things along those lines to make the Germans think that we had this big, huge army.
And they put them over near the portion of England that is right across the channel from Calais, France, because they wanted Hitler to believe that since that was the shortest distance between England and France, that was where the invasion would come. In order to reinforce it, they had thousands of fake mechanical armored vehicles of all different descriptions manufactured in the United States. All the tanks were made right here in Woonsocket. In Woonsocket at the rubber shop. And then they blew them up on site. The airplanes would go across on surveillance. They would see this and report back to you wouldn't believe how many tanks they got there. From the air, you couldn't tell any difference.
And they were fake rubber tanks.
That's right. And that was very instrumental in fooling Mr. Hitler to keep the large proportion of his defensive forces near Calais, France. Meanwhile, 250 miles to the west and slightly south, over at Normandy, that's where the real invasion was coming, and he had minimal forces there. So this was one of the strategic victories, and Woonsocket played a big part of that.
Fantastic.
Yep. And I'm
Also-
surprised you didn't.
I do have a recollection of
I was
that,
going to say,
yeah.
because you, like we were talking about you when you weren't here,
Uh-oh.
we determined
golly.
that history is your forte, not sports. Well, I determined that. I
Wow,
said,
you-
okay, now we
that's
know Bob's
Brilliant,
forte.
totally brilliant deduction.
This is like being with Sherlock Holmes.
But yeah, so let's forget sports. We won't talk about, but ask him any question about history, and he can answer it for the
Of
most
course
part.
you can, yeah.
Or make up an answer. Yeah. Okay. Good.
But,
Close
but
enough.
that's where the
Thank you.
lawyer comes in, so we don't know the difference.
Because his argument is always convincing. Yes.
Whoa.
All right.
Sherlock Holmes with a dagger. Yes.
Here's another one. Did you know? Now, we've all seen people who parachute out of airplanes. And you saw during World War II, thousands of people parachuting out of very large airplanes during the D-Day invasion and other times, right?
My dad was a paratrooper.
There you go.
Wow.
Well, in years following World War II, you notice now the rectangular parachutes instead of the round circular parachutes came into vogue because they are steerable. You don't
All
just
right.
float down and hit whatever you hit. You can steer and navigate to a certain extent.
All right.
With the and they call them parasails. They're used at vacation resorts, towed by motorboats out over the water, and all that. The parasail was invented by a Woonsocket man.
That I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, I wish I could recall his name right now. He went to St. Anne's. He was a parishioner of St. Anne's Church.
Wow. Amazing. I didn't realize that at
Well,
all.
and that's what makes the history of Woonsocket so interesting when you look at some of the history books or, take a walk around the city, on some of these tours. Go to the Museum of Work and Culture and, you learn. And that's for people that really like history. But to be in your own hometown and learn something you never knew about your own hometown is that much more interesting. Like, I don't care about history that took place in Lowell, Mass. But when you hear from Woonsocket, you go, wow, that's
Except
that's
that Lowell, Mass is
amazing.
where the first CVS store
Well,
was
I know
built.
a lot was from Lowell, Mass. I know that. And that's why that name came to mind was Lowell.
Yeah, but the boys didn't want to compete with their customers here in Woonsocket, so they did it in Lowell, Massachusetts.
One
Oh,
would think
wow.
I knew that answer, and that's why I picked Lowell.
Because
But it
wouldn't
really
have been taken
isn't.
kindly. Here they have these contracts to stock shelves here in Woonsocket and nearby, and then they open their own store to compete with these places. No, they did it in Lowell.
See?
Good.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, listen, it's time for a second message from the Blackstone Valley Call-in Times, where you can read all about Stanley Goldstein and a wonderful story there, and also read all about the Krylo Dance Studio and what it's doing now. A 75th anniversary, right on the front page. It's got a wonderful, wonderful portrait-style photo of Charlie and Barbara Krylo and their dancing days before they came back over at the Harris Mill right next to your previous digs and built their studio up. Now, Charlie was a good friend of mine for a lot of years. In fact, the most peculiar thing about that, we have this story here about Charlie and Barbara Krylo and the Krylo Dance Studio, 75 years old now, right on the front page of the Call-in Times. And one of my first thoughts this morning, you know how when you wake up in the morning and a thought pops into your brain? One of my first thoughts this morning was of Charlie Krylo.
Why
And
is
it's
that?
because Charlie was a man who, he impressed me when I was young, when I was in my 20s, just getting started.
He must have wanted to dance out of bed, so he
Oh,
thought.
Had
I
nothing,
mean, I don't know what.
had nothing to do with dancing.
No.
Charlie was the kind of guy who was happy, and he tried always to make other people happy. You could get embroiled in the biggest political this, that, or the other thing, and Charlie would always see a constructive, positive thing out of the discussion and cheer on both sides to come to a resolution. He never got down in the mud on it. He always kept a higher plane. Charlie was my inspiration for that part of my personality. And I've always tried to emulate him that way and develop that down through the years. It's so tempting as human beings. All of us sometimes get a little down. We get a little angry maybe at circumstances. And it's so easy to lash out because it comes naturally to humans. But Charlie always fought that. And Charlie was always had a good word for everybody and for everything. And I always tried to do it that way. And it was Charlie Kryler I was thinking of. Wouldn't you know he was mentioned on the front page of the paper the very same day
That's
that
funny.
I was thinking of him this morning, because I got up a little grumpy today. And I reminded myself, what would Charlie do? And I put on my happy face and I came to work. And all the rest of that. And I just thought it was kind of spooky almost. How it was
Well,
in the
you know,
paper
it's
like
funny
that.
though when you say, you know, the with me, you know, you always try to emulate positivity
You try, yeah.
whenever you possibly can. So my personality is, you know, looking for the best, so on and so forth. And you and I have had these conversations many years. Oftentimes when you didn't listen to me, and then you realized that I was correct. But that's another story for another day.
Only a friend can do that to you, you know? Get away with it.
No, those
But,
daggers, there's many of them.
But at the end of the day, you know, it's kind of funny because I see somebody. I was in a store yesterday, and there's a poor man in a wheelchair with a shopping carriage. I mean, the basket on his lap. You know, I'm the person that's going to walk over and say, "Look, I know you've probably done this numerous times, but if you need any help, I'm around."
Something from the top shelf. Look how tall I am.
Right. I know, right? Hello. But you know, just to try to always do the right thing and do the best thing.
course.
But at the same time,
Think of others.
At the same time, I can take you out at the knees if need be. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to not be a pushover, is I guess where I'm going with that. You know, people that, you know, nice, and then they get hurt, and then they don't know how to handle that part of the hurt. I mean, I deal with that with others, and you have to be able to handle both sides of the spectrum. You know, be your positive, be your good, do the right thing, but also be able to stand up and defend yourself. Whether it's just with actions, I don't mean actions like fighting, but just stand up for yourself.
First it's the knives. Now it's take you out of. I want to be in the other room.
I'm telling you.
You know, I
Well, no, I just think, you know, I was talking with people yesterday, and they were like, so, you know, what did you do about that? I'm like, what did I do about that? Well, because it wasn't a big to-do. I just walked away.
okay.
You know what I mean? So you're able to, you just have to know the right thing to do in any given situation. Maybe is where I'm trying to, what I'm
I
trying to
thought
say.
when people asked her what did you do about it, she was going to say I disposed of the body.
No.
Jeez.
No, somebody came to me, you know, recently, and they were like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Oh, for what? I never asked you about your husband.
Oh, okay.
And I said, "Okay, you're always so positive and up and smiling, and I always forget that you are dealing with a serious medical issue. Don't apologize for that. That means I'm doing the right thing and not pouring out my issues, problems, and concerns on somebody else that may also have issues, problems, or concerns."
You are good.
You know,
are
you
good.
kind of have to, and so I'm not wording it correctly. I'm sensing that, but that's,
You're doing just fine.
you know what I mean.
And the
That's Sue
accolades
Tessie
about
I'm sorry?
accolades about Charlie are really nice. It's good to hear that.
Well, they are, and Barbara was just a peach as well. And yeah, they were big inspirations for me in the city, very much so. And so Sue Tessie McKenzie could be maybe found for a few minutes when she's not out on the road doing her job at the office, no longer at 75 Main Street.
You can
but
never
at-
find me there. I work on the road all the time.
Well, you visit now and then.
I'll be there. I go there in the morning and get my day prepped and such.
And what's the address number now?
154 Main Street, Woonsocket.
154.
And we're doing our Father's Day contest. Enter online to win one of 3 gift certificates from the prospective advertisers that you choose.
What do we
So-
have to do to be involved in the contest?
Go online, www.woonsocketcall.com.
It's just that simple, Bob. And so erase 75 from your brain and make it 154.
You know
Main
what? I
Street.
just realized we have to erase 75 from our business cards.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized that as you said that.
Well, okay. We've got to take our little break over here. We'll return with more coffee and discussion. Lots of things in the news we'll be discussing, including a big meeting tonight all here on the Coffee and Show with Sue and Bob and Dave.
For an Allstate agent, providing protection options that fit your life is something they take, well, personally. Allstate agents are committed to learning about your needs and helping customize protection to meet them. From bundling your home and auto insurance with ease to evaluating optional coverage, your Allstate agent can help build an insurance proposal that fits your life. And just as important as learning what you need is learning what you don't. Because helping you get coverage you want with savings you deserve is what Allstate is all about. It's time to get coverage that's catered to you. Are you in good hands? Call Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. One agency, two locations in North Smithfield and Bellingham. One telephone number, 765-5000. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Allstate Property and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The Coffee and Panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted right here in Rhode Island. Down East Coffee Roasters is available at all Little General stores.
Have you heard of Scott McGee with Remax Properties? He's been selling real estate in Rhode Island and Massachusetts for the last 17 years, and you can see that he loves what he does. Scott, as well as his team, take pride in what they call the fair and honest team. No gimmicks. And no, they're not buying your house if it doesn't sell, etc. Just fair and honest real estate. Scott personally works with tons of sellers and buyers and specializes in residential properties as well as commercial, and he's always very fair and offers super competitive rates. Remember, this is probably the biggest move in dollars that you will ever spend or receive. You want to go with a trusted and experienced agent. Scott is fair, honest, and modest, always puts the clients first, and he also dealt with literally almost any situation. You really need to look at your real estate needs as a business. You want to pay and get the right money now so that you're not paying for it later. Trust me. So why not give Scott McGee a call at 401-639-2906. That's 401-639-2906.
All right, we're back here on Coffee and here on ON AM and FM radio. Sue Tessie McKenzie recanting ancient history with Dave and Bob here during the course of the break. Well, that's just fine. No problem there. Well, let's talk about some other stuff going on around the area. We've got some good news and we've got some tough news.
Give us the good news first.
Yeah, let's do good first.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm prepared for the crummy news here.
He prepares for the crummy.
Whoa.
Well, it just happened to be that was the paper on top. Here we go. Oh, yes. Good news. Harvard, when you hear of a Harvard graduate or someone who's a professor or something like that at Harvard University, you immediately will say, I'm sure, even in these enlightened times, these are people who are well-educated, smart, observant, mostly successful individuals, right? Depending on their gifts, and everyone's different, but
Except, of course, you always put your own school just that little bit ahead of Harvard.
well, of course you do.
Harvard's a good second choice.
But Harvard, as you know, has been meeting with some hard times in the court of public opinion over the last year or so. And so they got the faculty together. And, of course, the president resigned. They get another one and the rest of that. And things ain't been going so well. But poor Harvard. They've been around for so long. They'll survive this. And this is how they're going to do it. They got the faculty together. Said, no, let's get the best and brightest people. I mean, this faculty at Harvard University, for Pete's sake, they must be able to find a way out of this problem. I mean, here you have the president going before Congress, and, being ridiculed in the press, being forced to resign, and all the protests and this, that, and the other thing.
Get to the good news.
I was
man.
just
Get
going to
to
say,
the
we
good
did
news.
choose the good news, right,
Right.
Bob?
Yeah.
In a campus-wide directive issued yesterday, Harvard University has decided it will no longer make public comments on controversial issues that don't directly affect education, the core function of Harvard University. They will not take stands on issues of public discussion or race wars or war wars or anything else like that. They're not going to take anybody's side. They're going to say, we're here to educate people. Let the students and faculty discuss it. The university has no position. And I say to myself, they have now earned the wisdom which I had attributed to them in the first place. Wouldn't you agree?
Bob's
No,
looking at it
not
differently.
necessarily.
I
No.
could see it in your face,
I
Bob.
think it's great because if you, Bob, in my business, there is a time-worn tradition, an old saying that we teach to the young ones in our business coming up that has always been proven true. The less you say, the better you sound.
Okay.
Sue is nodding knowingly up and down.
Well, yeah, that's why I felt like I was babbling in this last segment.
The less you say, the better you sound. And you want to take, well, listen, we know that sometimes people don't trust if you don't take a side. And they're going to keep prodding you till you take a side. And sometimes you do take a side, and you have to take a side. But Harvard University took a side once too many. And they should keep the institution above and beyond it. And individuals can have their own individual opinions. But Harvard University takes no position on things like the war in Gaza and things like that. And
That now
think
makes
that's
that their
why- that's
mission
showing the
statement.
wisdom of their age.
Their mission statement, the education. So now they just turn it into their mission statement.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
how smart do you have to be to clam up when every time you open your mouth you get in trouble? That's why you don't see me on this show every day. Seriously.
Wait a minute.
I let Joe do it. yeah, seriously. I'm not going to, because no one out there in the radio land can divorce Dave Richards from the policy of the business. You can't. It's just,
Probably
I
true.
can do it. I know what's a personal opinion and what's a professional opinion, but you just can't ask the public to do that. They just won't do it. And so anything you say is going to come down on the business. And that's very difficult for everybody who works at the business. And I don't want to make my employees' jobs worse or more difficult. So that's why I come on the air and I do my thing and I help Joe when he needs help, and I come on once or twice a week, and that's about the size of it. You don't need to hear any more of Dave, that's for sure.
It's going to be you and I alone? Wow.
Well,
this is
no,
going to
I'll be
one
here to
great
help you.
show.
Well,
When I say you and I alone, I mean Sue
No,
and
no,
I,
no.
not Dave
but,
and I.
but I get what Dave is saying, because it does reflect on the business. As being a past business owner, I can see how that would happen. Take lawyers. When a lawyer, and I'm not referencing you personally, but you
Okay.
hear it all the time. A lawyer takes on a case that everybody feels is 100%. Why are you bothering? Why are you doing that? Well, look at what he did. So it reflects on the lawyer, because he had to take a stance and decide who he was going to defend. Right?
Well, yeah, if you advocate for someone, then you must advocate effectively, and you're not going to allow the other side any what's
But
the
I'm
word
talking
I'm
about the
looking
general
for?
public
think
now
measure in that?
forms
I think
their
the-
opinion.
The public concept is, of course, that people realize that lawyers don't personally agree with the position of their
There you
client.
go.
But
They
a
are an
lot of
advocate
them-
for the
Look,
client.
Look, the public
but-
can't differentiate between personal and professional,
Exactly.
even when a lawyer takes a unpopular case, right?
Exactly.
If you would advocate for an unpopular defendant who has been judged by the public already to be guilty, and if you advocate for that person in a professional thing, your average person on the street is not going to give you the intellectual time to differentiate between your personal and your professional views.
That may be true.
Precisely the,
Yeah,
the
so
point I was
that
making.
I just put it into lawyer terms, because I know you didn't agree with the initial, because
didn't.
we obviously neither of us gave you the opportunity to say that, or you said one word and that was no. So I apologize for
No,
that.
no apology.
Because
You're
you didn't
fine.
agree with it, but I do understand it.
Okay.
So now that we put it into lawyer terms,
Okay.
So what do you? I admire when a university or any institution turns around and says, you know something, this don't worth it, as we say in Woonsocket. This ain't worth it. We're just gonna, I have no opinion, because I'm not going to spend all my time defending an opinion that people think I should have instead of doing my regular job, which I'm here to do. When it gets out of hand like that, when the president can't stay at home and do the job at Harvard University and has to go down to Congress because they have been subpoenaed to testify before a congressional committee, it's getting a little out of hand.
Okay. I respect the position that both of you have, and it makes some degree of sense.
All right. Well, whatever. On the other hand,
Where's the bad news, man?
I know, right?
This was supposed to be the good news, and I'm digging my way out of the hole. And
okay.
all right.
On the other hand, all three of us are Rhode Island residents. I last time I checked, and so when the governor of Massachusetts decides that she wants to make some trivial change for whatever trivial reason she may possess, it's easy to have a little fun with her on it, since we're not her subjects, as it is. Governor Maura Healey is supporting legislation to change the name of the State Office of Elderly Affairs. She thinks that the State Office of Elderly Affairs puts a stigma on old people.
Don't look at me that way, man. Because I'm the oldest in the room. Okay. What's the new name going to be?
Oh, you'll love this one. This is so woke.
Uh-huh.
The Office of Aging and Independence.
Aging and Independence. Elderly Affairs. Aging and Independence.
Same people, same policies, same everything. Got to print up new stationery and business cards, though. And you got to shame people for using the old name, which is what they do nowadays.
Well, speaking from the position of being the older one in the room, oldest in the room, Elderly Affairs is fine. I mean, Aging and Independence, that doesn't have the same
Well, to me,
identity as to what they do.
It shows an ignorance on her part, and I know that she's an intelligent person. You don't get to be the governor of anything, anywhere, I should say, by being a dope. I mean, they might have done that back in the 1800s and stuff like that, put some figurehead there. But in this day and age, with today's press and media and stuff, you don't get to be any governor.
You don't get to be
and
any
be a
governor
dope at the same time.
Okay.
Not that you couldn't
have
do
you,
something
Have you looked
dopey.
at some of the governors of some of the states besides New England? And you can still say that with a straight
I
face?
say that she certainly has enough intelligence to know that this little attitude is so contradictory, because the process of aging and the process of independence only work for the first 30, 40 years of your life. You become more and more dependent as you age after 50. Dependent on family, friends, government, whatever, the healthcare system. You know, you become dependent as you go along. So that's the way I see it.
Let's
so
lock
if you
him
want,
in a room by himself.
I,
Okay.
I'm kind of
No.
have I left you speechless?
not
more than
really.
once.
I have a whole lot I could say, but I want to look intelligent.
But you know, the less you say, the better you sound.
No, I just feel that that's a complete waste of state money, having to change all of the documentation, all the paperwork, all the everything. That's number one. Number two, I don't think anybody gives a flying fig whether it's called the Elderly Affairs or Aging Independence. I think calling it Elderly Affairs, it speaks for itself and covers a wide umbrella. It's affairs pertaining to the elderly.
Right.
Versus this,
As opposed to love affairs.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's elderly affairs. It's not an affair, it's an elderly affair.
Wait,
But-
can we have...
but-
if we're having an elderly affair, does it mean that we're just going out with somebody who's maybe a little bit older? Older in the sense of
Well, maybe that's what she was thinking, and that's why she wanted to change it. I mean,
Whoa.
really. But
Whoa.
I
Okay, I can
just
see that
think,
as being-
no, no, I'm only kidding.
All righty then.
Yeah, that's not.
We gotta
no,
take a break.
It's stupid.
We got to take a break.
It's stupid.
And our weather forecast is the first thing in the break here. And our weather forecast is sponsored by, let's see, the folks at Allstate. And what do you know, Allstate? Let's see. I was just looking to see if I had a Benjamin spot coming up in this break. No, I don't. But the Benjamin Agency, of course, your local Allstate agency with 2 locations, North Smithfield and Bellingham. Some people just know that there's a better way to do things, like bundling your home and auto insurance with Allstate. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today, or visit the Benjamin Agency in Bellingham and or North Smithfield. Let's see what we have coming up next here. The weather forecast. There it is. Got it.
Showers and thunderstorms today and patchy fog, too. High of 65 degrees, 90% chance of rain, a half to 3/4 of an inch of rain could fall today. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low of 47 and a breeze from the north. Friday's weather, sunshine and 73. Saturday, sunshine and 78. Sunday, sunshine and 81. Monday, mostly sunny and 82. Tuesday, mostly sunny and 80. And on Wednesday, partly sunny skies, chance of a shower, high near 80.
Our temperature continues to go down here on Park Avenue. We started off at 59 degrees this morning. We are now at 53 degrees and steadily descending. In fact, it's 53.1, and you might even get a little lower than that. But the rain is letting up right now, but it is still going to, well, it's still coming down, but it's not as heavy as it was earlier. We think that over the course of the day, the rain will get continually lighter and end sometime late today. Thank you very much.
Krakow Deli Bakery Smokehouse offers authentic homemade Polish food to make your next meal special. Try our many varieties of hot and fresh pierogies with onions and what they call dirty sour cream. Or pick up gołąbki, kielbasa, babkas, or some fresh rye bread. We also offer a large selection of specialty and imported foods. Open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 9 in the morning till 6 p.m., Wednesdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays from 8 to 5 p.m. It's Krakow Deli Bakery Smokehouse. Follow us on Facebook and learn about our weekly specials. Located at 855 Social Street, Woonsocket, Krakow Deli Bakery Smokehouse has all the authentic Polish foods you love.
One of our gold medal winners in the Best of the Blackstone Valley is Marshan Environmental of Blackstone. They won gold in the category of septic service. They also won silver in the junk removal dumpsters category. For information, visit marshanenvironmental.com, one of the best of the Blackstone Valley.
We're back here on Coffee Ann on WON AM and FM radio, and it's time now for our first message from the law office of Robert Hope Larder, Esquire.
Thank you. Good morning. This is Attorney Bob Lauder. I'd like to talk with you this morning about several recent Rhode Island Supreme Court cases which involve information claimed to be confidential. The first case is that of State v. Brown, and it was decided just last week. In the Brown case, a suspect in a murder, which took place in Providence, was brought into the police station for interrogation. The defendant repeatedly stated his innocence in the crime. But after about 3 hours, he asked if he could talk with his mother. The interrogating officers agreed, and his mother came to the police station. Although the meeting between the suspect and his mother took place in a room in the absence of the police officers recorded and listened to the conversation between the suspect and his mother. Thereafter, at trial, the attorney for the suspect, who is now a defendant in the murder case, moved to suppress the statements made by the defendant on the grounds that the recording violated the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination and his Sixth Amendment rights to counsel. The Superior Court, that is the trial court, granted the motion to suppress. Upon appeal to the Supreme Court, filed by the Office of the Attorney General, the Supreme Court determined that the Superior Court was right in concluding that the defendant had a reasonable expectation of privacy when he spoke with his mother, and that the use of the oh golly, don't improvise, Larder. Let's go with just that. In the event you'd like to discuss legal matters with me, and hopefully not when I'm trying to read a commercial, please call my office for an appointment. My name is Bob Lauder. My telephone number is 762-4550. And the disclaimer: the Supreme Court of Rhode Island licenses all attorneys in the general practice of law. The court does not license or certify any attorney as an expert or specialist in any field of practice.
Let me just-
And my third grade reading teacher would be distressed at the mess that I make of these commercials. Thank you.
Let me just put it this way. Folks, take it from me. I've seen it with my own eyes. Bob is far more eloquent in a courtroom.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't read them in the courtroom. That's
No,
true.
you're not reading commercials in a courtroom, that's for sure. All right, lots of interesting things. Let's touch on some news here, and then some weird stuff is in the on the wire that you might want to talk about if we have some time.
Rats, I thought the
9:15.
weird stuff was up. Okay, I was going to make reference to the panel here, but that's not the weird stuff?
No.
Okay, all right.
No. Tonight.
Not yet.
Tonight at 6 o'clock, there'll be news made, and normally our radio station does not broadcast special meetings, not part of the yearly annual schedule of regular meetings of the Woonsocket City Council or of the school committee, but we do all of their regularly scheduled, predetermined meetings. There now and then comes along a meeting that seems, by our sense, to have such interest from the public that will actually broadcast a special meeting with permission from both the president of the council and or the school committee chair, depending on which one's involved. This time they both are, and I spoke to both of them yesterday, and we will broadcast the special meeting where the Woonsocket City Council is visiting the Hamlet Middle School tonight at 6 o'clock, and they will have an open public meeting. You can go there and watch it if you like and be there in the room. Or if you can't, we will broadcast it because there's so many people who are interested in the topic. The agenda is the school committee and the city council will discuss the school committee's agenda for fiscal 25 and the city council's budget for fiscal 25, and also the changes that are being made to Cass Park, which will reflect on the school department and things like that, and the fields and the turf that's being used and all the rest of those sort of things like that. That's what's on the agenda, 6 o'clock tonight at the auditorium at the Hamlet Middle School on Florence Drive. As I said, we'll broadcast that on the radio for you so that you can enjoy that listening in if you wish. What we expect will happen will be the school committee, because, see, I know what to expect because I listen to the council meetings because we broadcast those, and I listen to the school committee meetings because we broadcast those. So I have an idea what they're going to talk about when they get together. The school committee is going to say, we need 4% more. We need a lot more than 4%, but we're asking for 4% more funding from the city because the state is cutting us. And we've lost federal assistance that we had from the pandemic has now run out. It's a perfect storm. Those words were used by Superintendent McGee at the last school committee meeting. Perfect fiscal storm against the success of their mission. And then, of course, the city council is concerned about this. But they say, we don't know where we're going to get the money because we have to give back all these illegally, assessed monies that were illegally assessed against taxpayers that were on the books, saying we had a lot more money than we did, and now we lose the court case. We have to give them back the money or erase it from the books, and our books are looking pretty shabby. We're running out of federal assistance that started in the pandemic as well, and so the city council doesn't know what's going to happen, but they all do agree that the studious thing to do is to get together and at least discuss it.
Now the city council is the one who actually sets the tax rates and
Yes.
acquires the revenue that's used to pay the school department's expenses.
No. The school department is autonomous in Rhode Island in as much as the school department runs its own budget, decides its own budget. They get a contribution from the city, from the general fund of the city. They get a contribution from the state, and whatever other grants or sources of money that they can find.
But if the city council does not approve an increase in the grant that it gives to the school department, then the school department is
Has to make more cuts.
right.
In their last meeting, 43 teachers were identified and 33 were laid off
Okay.
at their last meeting. They had to before June 1st. By union contract, they have to advise people who are part of the union, if they're not going to have a job in September, they have to be told by June 1st by law, well, by the contract, and It's evolved into a legal.
Now, is
product.
the student population in the city still declining, or has it sort of stabilized?
I don't know the answer to that literally, but I can tell you that it appears to have stabilized.
It's my recollection that the
It's very transient, so it's hard to give you a straight answer on that.
okay. It has been my recollection that when an alternate newspaper had published the findings of student quality, the Woonsocket School Department students are not among the highest achievers in the state. Their quality of education experience seems to be pretty low.
That I think is old information.
Okay.
That is improving, just as attendance is improving. As a matter of fact, Woonsocket schools have been pointed out by the Rhode Island Department of Education as increasing their attendance ratio to absentee ratio quite dramatically during the course of this school year.
Good. Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
This, of course, can only bring positive results. I mean, how can you get good positive education results when the kids aren't in the classroom?
Right.
Have they identified a reason why the kids aren't in the classroom?
They are various.
Any
Most of the time when you speak on the side, private conversations with people, they're not making public proclamations, but most of the time you hear there are a lot of reasons why the kids don't come. If I had to put my finger on one, it's because parents today do not value attendance the same way their parents did.
That
And
was where
their
my finger
and
was
their
going.
grandparents did. What?
That's where my finger was going to be, putting it on that.
Yes.
I think
but
it
that's
plays a
not
big part.
that's not the simple only
No.
reason.
No.
Okay.
But that's a predominant reason. That for all the little reasons why a student might not be there, if the parent were more motivated to move heaven and earth to be sure the student was in the classroom, more students would be in the classroom.
Now, when the school department laid off that number of teachers that you were referring to earlier,
Yeah.
did that increase the number of students that were in each class on a...
It has to.
Okay. Any idea as to how many students there are in the various classes?
Well, no, they had repeated numbers for specific classrooms and grades. You're asking me a more general question that I can't respond to, except to say that I've heard a number that 25 is a maximum number and 25 is being hit.
Okay.
I think that the folks in the school department would agree with that comment.
Years ago, the number was higher.
Well, yes, it was.
Yeah,
But
years
as
ago
time
it was
goes
much
along,
higher.
they try to make improvements and they realize that you can be more personally involved with fewer students in
Yep.
your class.
Yep.
So both the Woonsocket Teachers Guild, which represents the teachers, and the school committee, which of course represents the citizens in this whole thing. However, they are also looking for better ways to better education. Both have worked toward making class size smaller, with the same goal in mind on both sides.
Okay. Just-
So that's what we got, and it'll be discussed tonight, 6:00. We're going to put it on the radio because I think a lot of people want to listen to that.
Yeah, I would think it's important, but I
Yeah.
would think that from the figures you're talking about, it's likely that the city is going to have to face the consequences of having a tax increase, because
Which is not going to be easy in an election year. So what are you going to do?
well, you have to
I
face face reality.
The previous administration simply sent out bogus tax bills to cover over money that she didn't have coming in. And that has been proven again and again and again and again that the tax assessments were gamed in order to make the books balance. And that seems to be irrefutable at this point, with so many dozens and dozens of cases lost that were brought against the city for improper taxation, tax assessment, I should say. So that appears, it's no longer somebody's opinion when you look at what happens at every city council meeting's agenda. So that was, I mean, you can be charitable and say the previous administration was hopeful that that money would come in, but the fact is that it didn't because it was improper assessment.
I would think that the reality is, forget about what may have happened in the past. What are we faced with right now? And faced
A
with right
perfect
now
storm.
sounds like
Yeah.
we're looking at some
Perfect
type of
storm.
tax increase.
Definition of which in social comments is a storm that develops from several different angles for several different reasons, the causes of which join together for a maximized effect.
And people just the everyday person that whether or not they have children in schools, everything's more expensive. But it's hard to understand or accept the fact that it's also expensive for the cities and towns. It's like where you were going to bill, and I'm just going to use numbers. If something was going to cost you $100,000, now it's costing you $200,000. Even though you're spending more out of your pocket, it's still, so's everybody else. So that's part of that storm.
Yeah.
It's part of the storm. It's, everything is so pricey.
We have to get a second message, Bob.
Let's hope I can do better with this one, man.
You'll do fine.
Oh, thank
You want my reading glasses?
Yes. Actually, you could read this yourself and it'd be a lot better than I'm doing.
Oh, you read it.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. This is Attorney Bob Lauder. The second case I'd like to discuss with you this morning involves a deliberate release of otherwise confidential information. The case is known as Lefebvre versus the state of Rhode Island, and it was also decided last week. In the Lefebvre case, a mother was charged with inflicting life-threatening injuries upon her 7-week-old son. During the course of negotiation between the attorney for the state and the counsel for the defendant, the defense counsel provided to the state copies of medical records prepared by Butler Hospital detailing prior treatment which the defendant had received for various types of mental health-related issues. Now, the defense counsel provided this information in an effort to convince the state to reduce the charges brought against the defendant. The attorney for the state did not agree to the charges being mitigated, and in fact the state prosecuted on the original charges. At the trial, the state introduced a medical expert who testified as to the injuries suffered by the child. And the expert stated that he did not believe that a person without a history of serious psychological problems or a serious behavior problem would violently shake a child simply out of frustration. The defendant did not produce any medical expert to contradict the witness of the state, and after consideration of the testimony of the defendant was found guilty. Thereafter, the defendant filed litigation seeking a post-conviction relief upon the grounds of ineffective counsel and the disclosure of the Butler Hospital reports. In affirming the conviction, the Supreme Court of the state ruled, "We will not meticulously scrutinize an attorney's reasoned judgment or strategic maneuver in the context for a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel." The defendant claimed that the decision of her attorney to disclose the medical records should not be dismissed as a reasonable strategic defense. The Supreme Court upheld the decision of the Superior Court, who ruled that the pretrial statements made by the defendant were so damaging and her version of how the injuries were sustained was so lacking in credibility that production of the medical records did not alter the outcome of the case. If you'd like to discuss legal matters with me, please call my office for an appointment. My name is Bob Lauder, and my telephone number is 762-4550. And the disclaimer. The Supreme Court of Rhode Island licenses all attorneys in the general practice of law. The court does not license or certify any attorney as an expert in any field of practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We'll be right back.
Winners of 3 gold medals and 3 silver medals in OED Radio's Best of the Blackstone Valley is Kay's Restaurant. They won gold for Best Casual Dining, Best Outdoor Dining, and Best Sandwiches. Kay's won silver in the categories of Best Cocktails, Best Lobster Roll, and Best Steak and Cheese. Kay's Restaurant is the perfect go-to location to catch up with family and friends. Stop into Kay's Restaurant today on Cass Avenue, Woonsocket. Check out their specials on their social media and visit their website, kaysrestaurant.com, and see their wonderful menu. Congratulations to Kay's Restaurant for winning 6 medals in OED Radio's Best of the Blackstone Valley.
All right, we're back here on Coffee and before we go, the time is really, when you sit
Right.
around talking with good friends, the time just zips right by, and we only have a minute or so left, and I just realized that we have not yet spoken about what happened last night at Mount St. Charles and Mount St. Charles Avenue. A good friend of ours and a good listener of the radio station for many, many years, and her family, as a matter of fact, Tammy Lamberto Roy. Tammy has been battling breast cancer for 11 years.
Wow.
Right, and has come to the conclusion, which we all must simply accept accept is the word, that she's done with the treatments, and she's not going to continue on with the treatments. So, of course, there'll be consequences for this in Tammy's life that she's decided are right for her, and her friends, however, and folks, go to the Woonsocket Facebook page, Woonsocket Radio, WOON AM and FM, and you'll see more than a dozen photographs, plus the story on what happened last night at 7 o'clock. Had to be almost 1,000 people, if not 1,000, very close to it, showed up at Mount St. Charles parking lot. They even changed the sign, the electronic sign at Mount St. Charles for Tammy Lynn, and they practiced doing a flash mob dance to Dancing Queen by ABBA, because Tammy loved to dance, right? And then they walked down to her home on Mount St. Charles Avenue, on the hill just below Mount St. Charles Academy.
What a great
and did it in front of her
thing
home.
to do.
What, isn't that something?
1,000
What did you
people.
just say? They didn't.
1,000
Did
people. They
was
danced,
she home?
Choreographed, yes.
Okay.
Choreographed dance to Dancing Queen by ABBA as impromptu, just show of love.
1,000 friends.
And many of them
That's
had
amazing.
placards, saying Tammy's Tribe or We Love You, Tammy, and stuff like that. And the very last notes of the song when it was over was We Love You, Tammy. Can you imagine that? I wish I had a video of it. I had a family meeting last night that I had to attend, and I couldn't let the family down. So I sent Melissa Murray over there, and she did an exemplary job of taking photographs and telling the story of what happened last night.
What a fantastic life to have 1,000 friends that want to do this with you.
Yeah,
Geez, that's great.
absolutely.
Now, was she the one that's a teacher? Was a teacher?
Yeah.
That is the one. Okay.
Yeah. And the whole Woonsocket education community came out.
Well,
And
and
all the
that's why I
friends.
say that,
Yeah.
because I thought that was the one. I just couldn't remember. For some reason, the name Tammy wasn't hitting, but the last name was. So that's why I questioned that.
Wonderful, wonderful lady. Most of the time we met on the telephone when she'd call in on contests and stuff like that. Always bright and chipper and happy. We talked about that earlier, about just putting on a happy face
Putting on a happy face.
and try and make sure that your troubles don't darken somebody else's day.
That's right.
But to know that your life has touched 1,000 people
Yeah.
who feel so great about you that they want to come out and show their appreciation for
As
you,
a teacher,
that is so good.
Yeah.
as a
affirming.
teacher, that's not surprising, but that gives more credit to you as a teacher, the lives you touched. It's not, you know what I mean? That speaks volumes for the lives you touched as a teacher.
Very much so. So we wanted to make sure that the show did not go by without mentioning that. I wasn't on yesterday, so I don't know if they did mention Tuesday's recognition of Roger and Mitch Savini as the 2024 Autumn Fest Grand Marshals. Yes?
I did see that. I did see it.
Yeah.
Not even sure where yet. I happened to glance
well,
last night or this
You can
morning.
catch that on our Facebook
Yeah.
page too, and like that. So we want to wish them the best as well. And our time has been up for a minute or so, so we have to go around and get final comments from Bob Larder,
Thank you for inviting me. Hope to see you again next week.
and we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you.
And Sue Tessier McKenzie from the Blackstone Valley Call-in Times.
Have a wonderful rest of the week.
You betcha. Gary and the gang will be here at 9:30. That's a scant 27 minutes from right now. In the meantime, if you missed any portion of our program today, pick it up on demand at woonsocketradio.com. Make it a good day.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio. And now, the news. State control of the Providence Public School District may be coming to an end. The State Education Commissioner Angelica Infante Green said the decision will be based on an independent review of the district's progress. The state took control of the schools in November